In this video, I show you how I painted the contents of the Hastur Box from CMON's Cthulhu Death May Die. So here is what the models look like if you haven't seen them before. Here are the Hastur Disciples. They're like monster cultists. And here is the big guy himself. And so this is the king in yellow. And then down here, this is what Hastur actually looks like. I've played quite a bit of Death May Die, so I'm going to start by giving everybody a scrub in some warm and soapy water, and then we're going to be doing a zenithal prime. So I'm starting with some black primer with a little bit of flow improver. I do this with an airbrush because I have one available to me, but you could do this with a aerosol can. You could either do it with just painting it black and then hitting it with a dry brush of what I'm going to do later. But here are the Disciples. Just got them on a piece of foam core with sticky tack. I get this mostly done in one coat, and then I go back and I hit a few of the spots that the primer didn't really take, but I don't do a second full coat of the black. And then after that, I grab some gray surface primer and put in a little bit of airbrush thinner because I don't want it to be too thick, and I hit everything from basically a 45-degree angle, and just trying to simulate ambient light all around, but trying to keep the black down in the shadows. And then we're going to hit it right from the top 90 degrees with some white ink. And I did 2 coats, both of the black primer and the white ink. Use white ink because white paint and white primer can get kind of gunky through the airbrush. All right, and here's what they look like after a zenithal prime. So now the plan is to dry brush all of the areas that are still black with some gray, just to help pull out some of those details. And then I'm going to do the same thing over the whole model with some white. And with the Hastur Disciples, I'm just going to do the white because there's not enough of the black for it to be meaningful. So I'm going to do some additional shading, and I'm using a sepia wash. I'm going to try to warm up these darkened areas so that when I glaze over it with yellow, it looks a little more consistent. In hindsight, I should have done a coat of brown paint over the black before I did the gray and white. And that's what I'm going to be doing from now on with warm colors that I'm going to be painting this way. I have to come back after I do the yellow and do some more shading. And even then, it would have looked better if I had just done it in brown. So I would recommend, if you're going to be doing any of this color glazing that I'm going to do later over warm colors, just put a layer of brown down over the black and call it good. Going to do some extra highlighting with some white paint and a little bit of white ink mixed in with that, just to get it flowing really well but keeping it vibrant. And I'm mostly doing edge highlighting stuff like around hoods and at the peaks of cloaks and yeah, right at the top of the head, stuff like that, things that I want to be extra vibrant. Alright, and here's what the models look like after I have done the underpainting. And the plan now is to do some color glazing. So my plan for Death May Die is to theme it around this magenta color, and this is what everybody's tentacles are going to look like. But this is the king in yellow, so we have to have some yellow going on. And so I wanted a color scheme that incorporates both these colors. And it turns out they both fit into a split complementary with a purplish blue. So I have one of those right here. So this is the scheme we're going to use on Hastur. And then we're going to be doing some glazing. So here's my glaze medium that I'm going to mix in. So I'm going to start with the yellow, and I'm going to glaze this over everything, or all the robes in the portion of Hastur that I am referring to as the King in Yellow. And we're also going to use this on all of the Hastur Disciples. We're going to go with a simple complementary scheme on these guys, but the yellow will kind of be a unifying color for all the minis in the box. And so I'm just going to glaze this over all the robes. This is what it looks like after one coat. We're going to end up doing 3, 4, maybe it was even 5 coats, maybe it was 4, but we're going to do several coats. All right, now I'm going to take a purplish blue, and this is going over all of the fleshly, pustule stuff that is the actual Hastur. So anything that is not a tentacle. That only took one coat because this was a pretty saturated color, and I wanted to preserve some of that zenithal highlighting. I'm going to come back later and push the contrast a little bit more. And now we're grabbing that magenta, and we're going to glaze it over all of the tentacles. So anything that is a tentacle, and this is what I'm also going to use on those orbs, though I kind of go back and forth on the orbs until I find something I'm comfortable with. You'll see how it all works out. And here's what the tentacles look like after a single coat. I think I did 2 on that, and then we are going to push some of the contrast a little bit more, or I'm going to do it. You're not doing it, I'm doing it. I'm going in and hitting all of the wooden portions of the gun, or the stock, and then I decided to do the ammo case in brown also, and I'm underpainting everything that's going to be skin later on. In my experience, the skin paints are usually fairly not great for pigment, and having an undercoat works out really well. And I'm using a just basic skin tone. I think it's called basic skin tone, and I'm going to do this on the King in Yellow portion, and I'm also going to hit one of the cultists with that. This is an old Citadel paint, and it ended up being kind of brown, so I decided to come back in and make my own gunmetal later. So I'm taking some purple, and I'm going to glaze it in on the inner robes and the sleeves of the Hastur Disciples, and this is their complementary scheme. I'm just doing yellow and purple, and I'm really happy how it came out. And that is what the ladies look like after the underpainting and the purple. I didn't like how the metallics on the gun came out, so I just mixed in some black with some steel, made myself a gunmetal, and coated all of that again. And we're going to be trying out a variety of skin tones. So here are some Caucasian skin tones, and then I have a bronze, maybe it's Mediterranean skin tone, I'm not sure, and then a warm brown. And I'm going to try to diversify these Hastur Disciples a little bit. I'm playing around with skin tones that I haven't tried before. So I'm just going to do a base coat of all of these, and skin tones usually take a couple to get a good opaque layer, but since I underpainted it with brown, that is going to help, and it's not going to be quite as difficult, especially on these really lighter colored ones. All right, now we're going to hit all those flesh tones with this Reichland Flesh Shade from Citadel, which is my favorite way to wash skin. All right, so I'm experimenting with hair. So here are some browns and some gray. Then I'm going to do some base coating in, and then we're going to hit it with a variety of washes, and then highlight up, and I'm going to try to do some red and some blonde and some brown, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, and at the same time, I'm going to try to hit the masks with some shining silver. And all that was tiny and pretty fiddly, so I didn't tape it. But I'm gonna hit some non-oil into this necklace piece that I also hit with the shining silver. And decided going to run some wash into this groove. I'm using the Reichland flashlight, so it'd be a little bit warmer. And we're just gonna kind of do some cursory highlighting. And here's kind of where everybody is looking a little bit. Alright, so I labeled everybody's skin tone so that I wouldn't forget what was what. And now I'm going to glaze back in the original color just to bring it back up a little bit after hitting it with that flesh shade. I'm trying to leave it in the recesses, but hitting the tops of the hands and some of the flat portion just to kind of bring it up a little bit. I'm going to do this on everybody, and then we're going to try to start doing some highlighting. Going to give Hastur the same treatment. Going to concentrate mostly on his hands, but I'm going to hit some of the more raised detail in this fake human body thing that he has going on. And I'm just going to go with all of the ladies and kind of try to bring back up that original base color on them as well. I struggled the most with this dark skin tone, so I ended up trying out a couple of different things, but we started with just glazing in that base coat again. Okay, so I'm going to try to glaze in some highlights. So I have some higher hue or lighter flesh tones. I'm also going to try that basic flesh tone and mix it into the dark flesh tone and work that on some highlights. So here is Hastur after I did some of the highlights on him. And here are some of the ladies with the bronze flesh. I mixed in some sunny skin tone and layers before I did a final sunny skin tone. And with the dark flesh, I mixed in some layers of the basic skin tone and kind of brought it up a little bit to kind of warm it up and give it some more detail. Alright, decided to push some contrast on the tentacles, so I took that Reichland fleshlight and I kind of glazed it into some of the lower areas, and then I'm going to do a similar process in the other direction. While I was washing, I decided to hit all of the blue-purple area with some non-oil just to bring the contrast down and to push the contrast between the real bright yellow on top and having some darker stuff down on the bottom. Washes were drying. I went back and got the steel color and I dry brushed the guns just to help make them pop a little bit. I have a pot of paint that is a similar hue but of higher value than my previous magenta, and I tried starting the orbs with this, and I'm going to end up coming back and doing a couple different things with this. But I'm going to take this color and I'm going to throw in some glaze medium, and I'm going to use that to start doing some highlights on the tentacles to kind of give it some more visual appeal and to push the contrast a little bit more. So I'm doing kind of curvy parts that are exposed to the sun, the tops of pieces, anywhere where it looks like it would be a little bit lighter. And I do, I think, 2 coats of this. So I mentioned it earlier, but I wasn't happy with how the black undercoat was working with the yellow, so I decided to go in and try to warm it up with the sepia shade, try to bring it into like a better tone with the yellow. In the future, again, if I'm going to be doing glazing with warm colors, I'm probably going to do black and then hit it from underneath with brown, so the shadowed areas will be brown, and then do the gray and then do the white, so that I don't have to do this step later. But I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Alright, so finally I decided with the orbs, I went back to the original magenta, and then I mixed myself up a gradient of that magenta with some white ink and some glaze medium, and I'm going to glaze the highlight trying to simulate almost a little bit of a glow by working each lighter hue of magenta, glazing it closer to the center, and leaving some of that dark behind, but keep glazing the lighter tones closer and closer to the center, and then keep adding more white ink. And I put some of the regular magenta on there and some more glaze medium in case I need to kind of bring up the consistency. So here's after a couple highlights. All right, then after a few more highlights, I hit a dab of the white ink where I want the lightest portion to be. And then after hitting that dab, I'm going to come back. I'm going to take my brightest glaze so far and glaze that over that dot. I'm going to go back to the magenta paint and do a little bit around the edge and have it spill over a little bit, try to simulate a bit of a glow. Did this with the glaze, didn't work out, came back with a regular paint consistency, kept it a little thin, but I did the whole process again later, and I think it looked a lot better that way. And then I also took that same glaze and I tried to pull back the highlights on the tentacles a little bit. And while I was doing that, I kind of decided that I wanted a little bit more contrast in the blue purple, so I got the original color and started dry brushing it a little bit, and then mixed in a little bit of white and did it again. Wanted to bring out the teeth, so I took that white blue purple mixture and was going to hit all the teeth with it. Turned out it didn't really pop out as much as I wanted to, so I just took a warm white and hit all of the teeth with that instead, and then came in afterwards and hit them all with that sepia shade from earlier. And with that detail done, I decided I was happy with everybody and called it good. So I hit them all with a matte varnish, and here we go. So here are the Hastur Disciples. I was pretty happy with how they came out. And here is the big guy himself, and really excited about getting him to the table. Pretty pleased with how the tentacles all came out, and happy with the orbs. And all in all, really pleased with the process. Learned a lot, enjoyed it. Biggest lesson is if you're going to be doing warm colors this way with the color glazing, definitely try doing a brown over the black before you hit with gray and white. That's what I'm going to do next, and we'll see how it goes. I'll let you know how it comes out. So I'm going to take a break from doing these Elder Gods. I still have Sothoth and the Black Goat. Let me know in the comments which one of those you think I should do next. If you don't know what they look like, you can check out my unboxing. And I think I am going to take a break and go batch paint some cultists. So, until next time, have a good one.